Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our virtual town hall meeting. We're excited to share our reopening plan for the year with you. First, I just want to take a moment to thank the entire community for your patience and support over these past challenging 5 months. Most of us thought by now we'd be back to some semblance of normalcy. That's obviously not the case, but we are real excited tonight to share with you our reopening plan that we feel will offer our students a high-quality education and take care of their needs until the day we can actually see them in person again. The overview for tonight is we're going to share with you the big picture, what you should expect, and when the changes will come in the year. We're also going to go ahead and take a close look at the differences between distance learning in the spring and what you should expect coming up in the fall. We will then take a close look at both school sites' detailed plans, including schedules, materials, when students can connect with their teachers. And then finally, we'll go ahead and answer the questions that were submitted this week. Thank you for those of you who submitted them. We had more than 90 questions, and we'll do our best tonight to go ahead and answer those. So where are we at? This is a quick timeline of what's happened in the last 5 months. Our last day of in-person instruction with the kids was March 13th. And at the time, we had literally a couple hours to pivot to our new way of doing school this last year. On the 16th, it was decided that all county schools, public schools, will go ahead and distance learning. We expected at the time that would last, a few weeks, maybe a month, but obviously that timeline got pushed back and back until we finally decided the year in itself was not going to happen. Then we began the process of planning for what we thought would be a normal school year, or at least a school year we could have some in-person instruction. So in June, the district convened 2 committees. We had a reopening committee that met 5 times over the summer, made up of 27 individuals, board members, administration, teachers from both sites, classified employees, parents from both sites, and even a community member. I want to thank them in advance for their help. You're going to see a lot of their work tonight. At the same time, we launched a distance learning committee that really, their sole focus was on making sure our new distance learning plan was as strong as possible. And you'll also be seeing their work tonight. Over the summer, you received various surveys asking you to weigh in on your preferred model of instruction, as well as if you'll need transportation and other questions like that. Thank you for those who submitted your responses. They were very helpful in building our plans. So at the end of June, early July, we were planning to offer parents 2 choices, AM and PM cohorts, and then full distance learning for those parents that would prefer that. And on July 17th, that changed. Our governor issued an order that required all schools in our county to start the year in distance learning. In fact, any school that was in a county, either public or private school, in a county that was on the state's watch list for COVID was required to start the year in full distance learning. And most of the counties fall into that list. I think in last count, more than 90% of the students in the state of California will begin the year in distance learning. The governor also laid out some very specific directions for when we can reopen. We need to be off of that state monitoring list for at least 14 consecutive days, as well as have a testing program in place. So with that, we again pivoted once again, and we put together a reopening plan. It's posted to our website. It was board approved a few Tuesdays ago. And basically it's a 3-phase reopening plan based on guidance from many different organizations, the CDC, the Department of Education, the American Pediatrics Association, and our own health departments. And the plan basically looks at 3 different phases and what will be included in each phase. Phase 1 is how we'll start the year, and that again is in full distance learning. We will begin on the previously scheduled August 19th, and that will run through at least August 9th. And that is regardless of what happens with the monitoring list. To reopen, our board finalized a reopening trigger, and basically there's 3 points. First, we need to meet the reopening metrics of being off the list for 14 consecutive days. We need to receive a formal recommendation from our reopening committee, and our board needs to take formal action at a board meeting. Once that takes place, we will transition into phase 2. And that will be our AM/PM blended learning model that we've shared parts of it. Before that transition, we will hold another town hall to give you more detail about that. Phase 2 also gives parents the option of continuing with full distance learning for parents that have students that are medically compromised, or at that point, you're just more comfortable continuing with what you've been doing. And then at some point, fingers crossed this year, we will transition to phase 3, which looks like the old normal. I don't think we'll be back to a pre-COVID school system for some time. What I mean by that is we will have health and safety protocols in place for some time. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and transition to Travis Baraki, who is our coordinator of technology, and he's going to run us through the big difference between what you experienced in the spring and what you could look forward to in the fall.
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. To start with a broader overview of what our distance learning will look like, we'll start with this graphic that some of you may have seen in the past already. This came out of the state budget addendum that was passed over the summer, and that was the first opportunity we had, and most folks in the state had, to get a look at what our requirements and what parameters we'd have to work within as we design and deliver a distance learning program. So some of the key parameters or targets we need to meet are maximizing our daily live instruction. We have instructional minute minimums that we need to hit for all of our students as they attend our classes as well. So that really informs how we go about planning our schedules, our delivery, and our curriculum for the coming school year. There will also be an increased focus on accountability as well. So on our next slide, we have another graphic some of you may have seen, and just an overview comparison of where we were in the spring in a true crisis response mode. We were on short notice trying to keep our head above water and maintain as much continuity for our students and families as we could given the circumstances. For the fall, we've had a summer of committee work and a lot of difficult planning to maximize that experience for everyone involved. So we'll be launching into a very different experience. It'll be a very much more purposeful distance learning environment that we're all excited to get started with. So our goals for the year, we want our distance learning to be engaging. We want to have interactivity between our students and our teachers. So instruction will be delivered daily, and that'll be live face-to-face between students and their teachers. One of the challenges not having kids in the classroom with teachers is making that whole experience easy to access. So we're putting a focus on simplicity and consistency of their day and accessibility for students and families. So our schedules have just been posted, and we'll get into those in more detail soon. But all the student workflows, how they get to their work, how they get to their classes, how they interact with the material, is going to be as simple and as straightforward and as well supported as we can provide. And beyond that, the material has to be rigorous, and our students are going to be accountable. So attendance is something that is going to have to be taken, and students will be receiving grades like they traditionally would in their school environment. So at elementary school, that's their rubric style skill-based assessment, and at the middle school, that is a traditional letter grade that students will receive. And speaking of simplicity, I wanted to take a moment to do a quick overview of our technology process. So we want to make this as streamlined as possible. I know that there are a lot of different components that students will be interacting with over the course of their trimester. However, the bare bones, this is what our core will look like. So first stop for students will be their Clever portal, and that's a single sign-on portal. We're going to have our Chromebooks configured to launch that automatically, so that's one less thing for kids to remember or navigate to manually. It'll be there automatically for them, and that just makes it easy. That's their dashboard to then launch into any of the products, apps, or software that they need for their classes. A core component of that will be their virtual classrooms. For the youngest grades, that'll be facilitated through Seesaw. From the older grades, they'll switch over to Google Classroom. So that is the platform where teachers will provide the necessary resources for the day. They'll be able to post assignments and assessments, and then students will in turn be able to return those assignments, the finished products, to their teacher for assessment. All these are going to be crucial. So in the coming week, we will have opportunities for training seminars for parents. And for folks who aren't able to make those times, we will have recorded video guides and other materials to make those processes as smooth and as comfortable as possible for folks. As you see, once we get into our schedules, there are going to be periods of asynchronous and synchronous instruction for students. So asynchronous periods of instruction are going to be things that students will be doing independently, independent reading or writing, going through some math problems from the previous lesson. In contrast, they'll have synchronous instruction through their classes where they will have live interaction with their teachers and their classmates, opportunity for discussion, to see experiments or lessons live as they happen with their teacher. And I think at this point, we'll turn it over to site principals to start going over the details of their school day.
All right. So for those of you who haven't been going to the board meetings, this is Kate Pagran again. I am back. I left Phoebe at the end with maternity leave right as the pandemic was starting. We are doing really well, and my daughter is 4.5 months. So we've been going through this all for 4.5 months. So all of you out there, 7th and 8th grade families, I'm really looking forward to working with you again. And 6th grade families, I've met a lot of you through Google Meets already, as we did at some 5th to 6th grade transition meetings. Unfortunately, those transition meetings are going to look a little different in the fall. And so that's what we're going to go over right now, are our updates on distance learning. So what I'm going to present is a weekly schedule of what your typical week would look like in all grade levels. Monday would be an asynchronous/synchronous day, a mix of live and not live instruction. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are going with block schedule to help students kind of maximize their content understanding during the day and do less check-ins with 5 different classes a day. We realize that logging in like the traditional brick and mortar classroom would be a lot for students each and every day. So reducing it down to 3 seems to streamline better for students, and they can really dive into the content with longer class periods. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be a block of ACE classes, and Wednesday and Friday will be BDF. So what a typical Monday will look like, regardless of the day, every day will have a homeroom in the morning beginning at 8:15. On Mondays, those homerooms will be 30 minutes, where the rest of the week they are only 15 minutes. We wanted to start the week off with a longer homeroom so that the teachers could go through what the weekly schedule will look like, really dive into it and explain to the students what's going to be happening that week. After that initial live instruction, teachers will have posted different assignments or pre-recorded videos or videos to watch, where students are doing more of an independent, self-guided time of learning, instruction, and assignments. We'll have assignments and these pre-recorded videos for all 6 classes during the day. However, there will not be a teacher there monitoring the students in a live fashion during these classes. So we have from 9 to 12:15, where students are a little bit more independent. Lunch will be 12:15 to 12:45 on that day. And then we have a live check-in with teachers so that they can get support, students can get support on the classes that they did independently. So we'll have a follow-up check-in at the end of the day on Mondays as well. So then we go into our block schedule for the rest of the week. One of us that traditionally has had a rotating schedule with A days, C days, E days. A basically stands for first period. C is your 3rd period class, and E is your 5th period class. So we rotated the classes throughout the day. So a Tuesday, Thursday schedule, you would have your A period class, your C period class, and your E period class for 90 minutes block schedule. We wanted to really allow children to go outside and take breaks and have some off-screen time during the day. So we put some 30-minute breaks in between. So if you see at 10 o'clock there's a break, and at 12 o'clock there's a break. The other thing we wanted to make sure was that the times would be easy for students to remember when they needed to be in their classes. So A period begins at 8:30, C period begins at 10:30, and E period begins at 12:30. And those are all consistent throughout the week. The last thing we wanted to check in with is that if a student needed additional help, they could actually reach out to their teachers to have additional support during that teacher's office hours. So we just went over the Tuesday, Thursday. The next one would be Wednesday, Friday schedules, which are BDF periods. Again, 90-minute blocks. The only difference we see here is, unfortunately, with scheduling, we were not able to accommodate 7th grade Spanish this year. So we will be offering 8th grade Spanish to students that were enrolled in the 7th grade Spanish program last year in order to get them the credits that they need for Salinas High School. 8th grade Spanish will be a 90-minute class, but for all other students, we will enroll them in an elective class called Skills. And that skills class is actually only going to be 50 minutes. Other students who have an IEP that designates supports may have a 90-minute class at the end of the day at this time for study skills support as well. So we have a little bit of a difference in end time and dismissal on Wednesdays and Fridays. If you are an 8th grader who is already enrolled in Spanish, you will be ending at 2 o'clock. If you have the support listed on your IEP, you may be ending at 2 o'clock as well. And if you are a student who has a support class or the elective class called Skills, you will be ending at 1:20. So a difference in end times during the day based on what elective you have. Again, office hours will be offered at the end of the day, same break times, same class starts, and same lunch times. A couple important dates to remember. We will be sending our supply list out on Wednesday, August 12th next week. I will send out an email to all parents. So by the end of the day on Wednesday, August 12th, if you have not received a supply list, I may not have your email. So please somehow reach out. I will include my email, so reach out to me if you have not been getting the communication, because we really want to make sure that our communication is tight and that you are receiving the emails that the school is sending out. After I send that initial email out, I will be having those supply lists posted on the district website. We also would like to get, we also will be doing an asynchronous open house. And what that will look like this year are our teachers will be posting videos of what their classrooms will be looking like. And they will also be posting syllabuses. So it'll go over routines, homework policies, which we will have a lot less homework this year, classroom norms, expectations, basically what you would find at a typical open house, but pre-recorded in a video so that you as families can watch them ahead of time before we actually start at school year. We traditionally do this the second day of school. So this year families will have a chance to see the classroom, see what the teachers' syllabuses are prior to the start of the school year. We will also be doing a student materials pickup, and that will also be on Tuesday, August 18th. So the day before school is a big day. We have our open house and we have our student materials pickup. This first one will be offered at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it will go till 12 o'clock at noon. And families will be able to pick up textbooks, novels, their planners, classroom materials, and basics that they'll need for the fall trimester. Schedules will also be included in this. And we ask that families practice logging into Google Classroom. Activation codes aren't something that we're as focused on because we will have put all students into their Google Classrooms prior. But what we would like students to do with their families is practice logging into Google Classroom to make sure that those classrooms are showing up in their Google Classroom screen. And by checking that all of your classes on your schedule are listed there, we'll get a good fresh start to the day. We also wanted to accommodate our working parents. who may not be able to make that time at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we'll be doing a second one in the evening at 5:30. The 9 o'clock one will be a little bit more of a fun environment where we'll have teachers there and they'll be passing out materials, and you'll have a chance to see some of the teachers that your child may have. Where the evening one, unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate that, but we will be able to have you stop by the school to pick up materials before the start of the school year. And then Wednesday, August 19th at 8:15, we're going to ask that students log into their homeroom Google Classroom, and that will be the start of the first day of school. The first 3 days, we understand that this is going to take a little bit of time. This is something we've never done before, and we want to make sure that the first 3 days focus on getting students set up on their digital platforms, online classroom routines, and really just building classroom community. So I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Sherpinski.
Thank you, Mrs. Pagran. And Kate's daughter, Lindy, is absolutely gorgeous, and she keeps us smiling in our virtual meetings whenever we have the opportunity to see her. So it keeps us happy. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I miss seeing you all, and I'm so anxious to be back on campus with all of our families and our kiddos. But for now, I want you to know we've been working really hard to make it the best we can for our kids. And I think we have risen to the occasion, and we want to help you out to make it the best at home. So I'm starting, like Mrs. Pagran did, with a schedule. It's a little different for elementary because we have 6 different schedules based on our grade levels. So I chose right smack in the middle our 3rd grade schedule to share with you, to explain a little bit of how it'll work every day. Even though students are in different grade levels, and when you check out the schedules, you'll notice they are somewhat different based on the timing of instructional minutes for the students and their developmental levels. So what I'm saying is kindergarten schedules, their reading time will be a much shorter period than a 5th grader. And in this draft, you can see kind of how the day looks. It's the same for every grade, which we hope will make it better for our families. Every student at Spreckels Elementary School will start school at 8:30 with their class meeting and attendance, and end their day at 2:45. So, 1:45 with teachers. But so it's the same no matter if you're a kindergartner or a 5th grader. Lunches are the same actually from the middle school and our site. We did our best to keep it the same so you can actually, as a family, have a nice lunch together and take a break. The rest of the recess breaks may be different because of, again, the schedules and the amount of instructional minutes we need to have. I want you to know that we are, I'm looking at our synchronous days right now, Tuesdays through Fridays, and they will be the same. We'll get into a routine with the students. So on this sample, you'll notice that the first content area is writing for 3rd grade. It may be math for 5th grade and reading for kinder. Those things may be different, but they will be doing learning and throughout the day. And the focus will be in language arts for writing and reading, and science and math. And you'll notice if you look at this schedule that there are other things listed in the somewhat orange asynchronous things. We will be including activities for the students to do without the teacher that they will also be checked on, but on their own, such as typing club for some students, handwriting, PE activities, lots of things to keep them busy, doing their AR reading. And then as Kate mentioned, Mondays are asynchronous days. At Spreckels School, on Mondays, the students will start the day at 8:30 with a class meeting and attendance, and the teachers will work with them until 10 o'clock. That'll give the teachers time to go over the weekly schedule with the students, tell them what's up for the day so they can get started on their own, and let them know what's expected for them when they get back together on Tuesday. Every afternoon, Mondays through Fridays, the teachers will have office hours. So from 1:45 to 2:45, across the board on our site, it will be office hours for students and for parents. If it's a time that you cannot make contact with the teacher All I always suggest is that you email them and let them know a good time to talk, and the teachers will get back to you. We are going to be very focused on communicating with parents and helping you with whatever hiccups come up along the way, and making sure that we support you and especially support the students through this new learning process. And I just want to mention that all of the schedules are already on the website by grade level. And I know at elementary school, everybody gets very excited about what's coming up. So here are the dates of what is happening. And yesterday I sent out a parent letter, and these dates are in the letter, but I wanted to share them again. By August 11th, which is next Tuesday, you will get an email from your child's teacher with a kind of a biography and a welcome. And that's how you'll find out who your teacher is this year. And they'll give you some information about how to connect with them, what their mode of communication is, their email, and so on. So that'll be a great start for your family. And then on the 17th, we have our virtual back to school night. We're doing it a little bit different than BV. We are going to put together grade level videos with the basic information for families, so you can, and we'll send that out in the morning of August 17th, so you can watch that video ahead of time, or anytime after, or anytime you want to rewatch it in case you want to check out some information. But the grade levels will be doing it together. And then in the evening, you see the times listed up there. You have a couple of choices, and you will be sent a link to your teacher's meeting, and you will have an actual virtual back to school night with your child's teacher. Those virtual meetings will be videoed, so that if you cannot make it, you can watch the recorded video later. The only thing is you won't be able to ask any live questions. So, but there's 2 opportunities in case you have more than one child, or you can, if not, you can maybe send a spouse or a friend to check out the other one. And then on the 18th, the day before school, we will be having our materials pickup and our meet the teacher. So our teachers will be there on the 18th, following safety protocol and socially distanced, and they will be they will be there to give you all the supplies you need from school. That was one of the things that was really difficult last year, because we all left and we thought we were coming back. And so then students did not have their math workbooks or reading books or any of those things. So we are working on getting everything together in a packet for you, with so you will have everything you need, so you don't have to print out papers at home, and you can feel a lot better about those kind of things. All those materials will be coming to you. I'm noting that I did not list the 4th grade, so please take note that the 4th grade pickup for materials is the afternoon, the 12:30 to 3 o'clock time. So that is a mistake. It should say TKK 2nd and 4th grade. We divided it up so that we can socially distance and have not such a big traffic jam of cars coming by. But please bring your students with you, because we want them to meet their teachers. That will be a really great way to do that. And then the first day of school, obviously, is August 19th. And again, we will start at 8:30. And at back to school night, the teachers will go over how to log on, so we're ready to go the morning of the 19th. So start practicing now, going to bed a little earlier, getting a good night's sleep, having an excellent breakfast, getting dressed for school, having a space to work, and ready to go on the 19th at 8:30. And this is always a hot topic. What supplies do the students need? The supply lists for each grade level are on the website, so please check it out if you are out and about and you want to go to Target or order curbside, however you want to do it. But they're listed on the website for you. And teachers are also, by grade level, providing some supplies, so they let you know. So if the supplies are not listed, that probably means you don't need to worry about it, that we'll be providing them. We want to make sure that you have what you need. And as we go forward, if we need to provide more supplies for you, or the next workbook, or whatever it is that your students need, we will do another pickup. So we will make sure that you have what you need. And if there's a time that doesn't work for you and you're just really stuck because of work, just let us know. We'll make a plan and we'll make it work so you can pick up your students' things. And the first week of school, I really want to encourage you to be really positive with your kiddos and to really make it just as important as it always has been. Nothing more special than going to school for the first day. And so I mentioned this in my letter, but you know, I always get a new dress for the first day. I'm getting one, gonna wear it. So, you know, just think about how you can make it a special day for them. But for us, we're going to make sure that we do what we always do, which is build community. And with distance learning, as the children are moving as a community together, we want to introduce them to their new teacher and have them share their community with their teacher. We want to support their social and emotional well-being. We want them to feel comfortable and happy to be back at school. We want them to have lots and lots of practice with those digital platforms that Mr. Baraki was talking about. We want them to have lots of practice with learning online classroom routines so it's comfortable. They don't have to bother whoever's taking care of them or your parents or your caregivers. And we want to take a lot of time, just like we do in the classrooms, to practice our rules and expectations, our respect and our responsibility, and our care for each other. Thank you very much.
Before we transition to the questions and answers, I wanted to go ahead and thank you, all of our the administration team that you just met. They worked tirelessly this summer. Needless to say, there were no vacations, so your hard work is much appreciated. Now we're going to discuss the questions and answers that you submitted this week. There are more than 90, and we're confident that we will answer them in some way tonight. Either they were answered in the presentation, or a lot of them were similar in categories. So we consolidated them into one question. Some were actually, pasted verbatim and answered. If throughout this presentation you have additional answers, or questions, pardon me, go ahead and jot them down. You could email me tomorrow and I'll get back to you with an answer, or I will ask one of the principals to get back to you. This presentation, the entirety of it, will be posted to our website tomorrow. So there's no need to take notes. If you have questions, you can go ahead and refer back to those. So again, thank you to all of the people that submitted. The first question had to do with one of our cohorts. How will they be determined? When will parents be notified? And will parents have a choice? So the cohort selections, actually, we're still in progress. It's quite a challenge. There are a lot of factors that go into it. We made sure siblings would be in the same cohort, either the morning or afternoon. Students that ride the bus, due to physical distancing requirements, we need to make sure that the buses are going to be balanced between morning and afternoon. We're working with the Y, with childcare, and to the best of our ability, we're going to try to make sure that we keep kids in as close to the same cohort as possible. And then some course offerings are only offered a certain time of the day. All these factors went into the creation of the cohorts. Otherwise, it was pretty much a random selection to ensure fairness. As I think Teresa mentioned, grades 1 through 5 will stay together with last year's cohort. They'll move together. That is to make the transition easier in terms of social emotional stability. And at the middle school, groupings were randomized. Now, parents with extraordinary needs, we hear you. There is very little flexibility with the cohorts, but if you have extraordinary needs, contact the site principal. No guarantees, but we definitely will do our best. And the site principals will go ahead and notify you of your AM or PM cohort by September 1st, which will give you plenty of time to make arrangements. Again, the earliest we will transition to phase 2, which is the cohorts, is October 12th. Next question had to do with the meet and greet. I think that the principals kind of mentioned that both sites have a couple of days ahead of school to the opportunity for kids to meet their teachers, or at least wave to them. This question has to do with Chromebooks. Many of you have Chromebooks from the spring. Obviously, you can keep those. Students that need Chromebooks, there will be a distribution on the 17th and 18th. We will email you specific times. And we realize that some people can't make those days, and then Mr. Baraki will be available on a one-to-one basis after that. Social activities and enrichments. During phase one, we're going to do our best to continue enrichment virtually, meaning music, art, and library. Teachers are also going to place a priority for socialization reasons on class meetings to build that sense of community that was discussed in the presentations. Once we transition to phase two, what will be offered really will depend on what the county allows us to do. At different phases of the COVID reopening of the society, we're allowed to do different things as far as sports and leisure. Working families. So this was a question, a comment, a concern that came up many, many times. And we absolutely feel for all of our families. Distance learning is hard. There's no doubt about that. It's extremely hard for single parents or parents that both work or don't have reliable childcare or relatives that live nearby. And we're not pretending that's going to be easy. We are going to do our best to work with you as we will do throughout the year to accommodate you the best we can. The principals have made structured schedules that will be in place and be the same daily, so the kids can go ahead and feel a sense of routine. We're going to front load a lot of the tech skills ahead of time, so the goal would be for kids to be as independent as possible after a couple of weeks. I know that's kind of naive for the younger kids, but we do believe the kids are resilient, and if we keep on reinforcing how to log in, our teachers are amazing, and they will take it from there for the most part. Our IT team is available at all times to troubleshoot any kind of tech questions or concerns. How many hours per day will be live instruction versus independent? I think that was cleared up with the scheduling slide. Again, it's going to be a balance of synchronous and asynchronous. Mr. Baraki mentioned that the state has minimum requirements for minutes, with live instruction being mandatory daily. What type of assignments will be turned in? Very similar to a normal year. There'll be written assignments that they can submit online. There'll be a lot of its participation. There'll be online assessments. And the platforms we're using digitally are, we hope, developmentally appropriate for the kids. Grading, as Mr. Baraki mentioned, is going to be, there's accountability this year. In the spring, there's a hold harmless clause as far as kids weren't going to be penalized for what they could access online. The goal was by the fall that we have things in place, and we're comfortable or we're confident that we do have Chromebooks for everybody, and our teachers are well prepared. So we are returning to the traditional grading. At Spreckels, that's going to be a 1 to 4 rubric, and letter grades at Buena Vista. Grades will be made up of various assignments, different types of assessments, projects, and participation and attendance. We kind of mentioned the parent trainings. We are going to offer, whether they're recorded or live webinars on all the different platforms. More information will be sent home. And as the year goes on, if you have questions, if you feel like you're locked out from this digital experience, do not hesitate to call either the principals or Mr. Baraki. How can parents support their children? $1 million question. It's hard with distance learning, but as Mrs. Strapinski said, is the first thing is to make distance learning as important as normal learning. You know, have the same sense of wonder, and it's the first day of school. Have them feel excited about it. You know, go out and buy new shoes. Get them on a sleeping schedule so they'll be well rested. Have a quiet and reliable place for them to learn. Encourage them to do their best. You know, we talk about how hard distance learning is for parents and teachers and educators and society. The kids are the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest victims of this. And we need to support them and just encourage them to do their best. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir there. What resources does the school have for kids that are struggling with isolation? As most of you know, this COVID lockdown, one of the biggest concerns is isolation and the lack of socialization for kids. With that in mind, our teachers are going to make a priority out of holding small group breakout sessions, encouraging the kids to you know, continue to chat offline, and to build that sense of community. With Google Meets, there's the capacity to have kids break out into smaller groups of 3 or 4, always under the supervision of the teacher. So that type of cooperative grouping will be encouraged for many reasons. What type of extra assistance will we give to struggling students? First and foremost, the teachers will be working in small groups to figure out where the kids' skills are. A lot of reteaching. We know kids will have learning loss. That's a fact. And we'll do early assessments to figure out where we could reteach and build those skills up. We will post a lot of the video lessons of the day online so parents can go ahead and review them either after work or kids can see them for a second time. A lot of online support tutorials will be posted, whether it's math practice or perhaps reading practice. And as mentioned in the scheduling, teachers will be available pretty much every day for additional office hours. A lot of concern for TK and kinder for good reason. This is their first experience with school, and that weighs on all of our hearts. We want to make sure that their first experience is as magical as it was for all of us. First, we're extremely lucky to have incredibly talented TK and kinder teachers that are committed to doing a lot of the same stuff they would do normally in the digital world. They're going to be including art, music, movement, story time, sharing, and more. Our language arts program, Super Kids, is fun and exciting in itself. We're going to do everything we can to make these youngsters' first experience as good as possible. We hear your concern and we share it. For phase 2, instead of the kinder assessments, the teachers will have time with the kids and they'll go ahead and group them in cohorts that are appropriate moving forward. Will parents have a choice in phase 2 to have full distance learning? Will it look the same? Yes, you will have that option. So when we move to phase 2, we will ask parents to commit to either the hybrid, the AM/PM hybrid, which has 4 days of in-person instruction, or to continue in distance learning for an extended time. And that might be for a trimester or when it makes sense with the transition. Due to staffing and other factors, we're going to have to regroup kids. We don't know. We can't anticipate now how many kids will sign up to continue in full distance learning. So there's a chance that a teacher may have a group of second and third graders in full distance learning. The kids will still be taught grade level content standards, but they might be in mixed grades groupings. What health and safety protocols will be included when we get back to school in person? As I mentioned, our reopening plan, it's a 30-page document. Is posted on our COVID page of our website, and there's the address there. There's 17 different categories. Most of them, quite honestly, have to do with health and safety protocols. They include, obviously, sanitizing and cleaning, hygiene practices, PPE, including, face masks, cleaning, physical distancing, whether that's going to be putting stickers on the ground to reinforce 6 feet. There's quite a few. I would encourage you to take a look. Again, before we move into phase 2, we will have another night like this to kind of go over what to expect. My child requires extra support, whether it's special ed, English learner, or intervention. How will they be supported? Will they be able to do in-person instruction? So students that require additional support will receive the services that they're supposed to virtually. Per their IEP, which is for special ed, or if they're on a 504 plan for regular ed, those accommodations will be in place to the best of our virtual ability. Getting back to, will we bring kids to school in small groups? We're hoping to. Right now, the state's talking about student pods, which is bringing back small groups of 3 or 4 to the sites during phase 1, during distance learning. Right now, it's a pretty gray area of whether we can do it or not. There's a lot of discussions going on at the state level. If and when that's allowed, we will work with those parents to hopefully bring back the highest risk groups academically to site to get in-person instruction. That'll be the first group that comes back. Will parents be allowed to review the curriculum before school starts? Absolutely. The how school is going to take place has changed drastically, right? It's now a virtual world. The what we're teaching stays the same, and that's going to be dictated by the content standards set out by the CDE. And there's a website here, but basically we'll list the grade level and subject, and our teachers use those in preparing lessons. In addition, the teachers on back to school night will do their best to kind of give you a sample of what will be taught that year. Our annual paper roundup is obviously will be missed. It's a great opportunity for us, our community, to come together. This year, we're going to be conducting that virtually. In the next few days, you'll be getting an email with directions of what to submit and how to submit forms. Will teachers be present at their computer for the duration of the class day? During the synchronous times, yes. So an example of a lesson, a synchronous lesson might be, if it's a 30-minute span of time, the first 10 minutes might be a direct instruction, teaching kids, what the new concept is. There'll be 5 or 10 minutes of them working with the teacher's, guidance. And then perhaps the last 10 or 15 minutes, kids, like they normally would, be working independently. But the teacher will be there for the virtual hand up. So yes, teachers will be there during that instructional time to answer questions. In addition, they'll be available at the end of every day for follow-up questions during their office hours. How will the district accommodate multiple siblings? As mentioned, siblings will be placed in the same AM/PM cohort to make parents' planning easier. Hope that answers that question. How is the district going to hold children accountable for synchronous teaching? Is that something that will happen? Students, the expectation is that students will attend school by logging into their assigned classes so roll could be taken. Again, per the state guidelines, attendance is mandatory and we have to report absences. During the first few weeks of school, as mentioned, teachers are really going to demonstrate for both parents and students how to log in and get those routines ingrained, with the goal that the students will become developmentally independent. Developmentally meaning, obviously, the kinders and the first and second graders, it's going to take more time, but we do believe that we will put in place routines and structures to make it as easy as possible. How do I go about getting my child extra help, whether it's through regular education 504 plans or a special ed IEP? Students that are on IEPs, we will virtually provide all the services in minutes that they're supposed to get. In general, we are expecting a loss of learning for all kids. So we are going to be assessing for the first few weeks, if not months, to figure out where those gaps are and reteach. After that, if you feel your child's still, struggling, and it's not just due to, what's gone on in the last 5 months, your first move is to talk to the child's teacher. Often they could put together, put in place some accommodations that day. If it requires more than that, the teacher will follow the normal procedures. They will go ahead and call for what's called a student study team, which includes the administration and our special ed coordinator sometimes, and if needed, recommendation for testing to see if we can get even more accommodations. So very similar to the same process, but knowing that every kid will be behind a little bit to start the year. That's just a reality. Can we connect our child's Chromebook to a larger monitor? Absolutely, but just a warning, there are different cable requirements. So before you go out and buy something, please call our IT department at the number shown. Again, this will be posted with all the numbers provided. What grade levels will be grouped that different teachers are reviewing the same materials? So a lot of you have asked about grouping kids together because families are doing their best to kind of help out. So if they're in the same grade level, there's a good chance they'll be doing the exact same thing, same assignments and the same assessments, regardless of the teacher. The teachers are working extremely closely together. Oftentimes they're sharing the workload, meaning one teacher might give all of the third grade classes a science lesson. So they're getting the exact same lesson from the same teacher. Same thing for math. So there's gonna be a whole lot of sharing and experience the same instruction. At Buena Vista, often one teacher has that entire grade level subject. For example, the 6th grade math teacher teaches all 4 sections. So in that case, the teachers will be doing almost identical things, not identical always, but if you have a child, a close friend in another cohort, there's a good chance those kids could still get mutual support from somebody, if that makes sense. How will English learners be supported? All the teachers are equipped with English learner strategies that they put in place daily, but more than that, at both sites, there is an English language learner assigned teacher who will be checking on the kids and the families on a regular basis, making phone calls, setting up Google Meets with the kids to make sure they're progressing. Also, if allowed to bring those small pods that I mentioned back, our neatest EL students, the ones at the beginning levels of language acquisition, will be brought back as well. Will lunch service continue? Absolutely. It will be similar to the grab and go this summer. The locations and the times we're working out right now, but you'll get that information. But more than likely, it'd be the same as the summer. We'll have tables set up at Buena Vista or Spreckels. You could drive up in a mask. We'll have somebody deliver it to you, and that will be a regular, either every day, or we will have multiple days food on a given day. This has to do with reliable connectivity. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically the answer is if you have any tech-related issues, either you need a device or your device is broken or you don't have connectivity, please call our IT department. They're there to support you. They're fantastic. If they can't remedy, then we will look for plan B, which in some cases might be having the student do some paper pencil stuff until we resolve the problem. Also, there are a few areas in our district that just don't get internet. We can give them home hotspots, but again, the hotspot doesn't work if the area doesn't get internet. If that's the case, there are a couple local areas, one being right outside of Buena Vista's library parking lot. That's a public Wi-Fi that we set up. I know it's not ideal to drive to the parking lot, but that is there. And we're looking at doing something similar at Spreckels. We will let you know when that happens. This has to do with this question with students with different learning styles, whether they're tactile. A lot of the kids that you just know they're going to get burnt out and experience what's called screen fatigue. What do we do with those kids? So distance learning is hard for most kids, to be honest, but there are a group of kids that's extremely difficult for. We saw that in the spring. The kids just couldn't access the learning. For those kids, we need to intervene right away. Some of them are on our radar, on the teacher's radar, but if you're a parent and you just realize no matter what you do, they're just, the kid's just not experiencing success, get the teacher and the principal involved right away. Again, for some kids, distance learning is not natural and it's going to be very difficult. But getting back to learning styles, the teachers, they realize that developmentally kids will need breaks, they need to move around, have a chance to get a snack. That's all going to be built into the day. Will teachers be sending out a weekly schedule in advance? Yes. You will get from the sites a week, just like in the spring, you'll get a list of the week's assignments and due dates, whether it's given on a Monday or perhaps the Friday before the Monday. That's still worked out per site, but you should expect to get an outline of what is due and when. This is a question about just some tough family dynamics. Both parents are essential workers. This is very common. How do we support the kids? And again, I wish I had a really good answer for these parents. This is very common. Again, there's a lot of single parents with similar concerns. And we understand that it's nearly impossible. We're there to work with you. I don't have a pat answer that it's probably acceptable, other than we'll work as partners. We're going to do everything we can to make sure the kids have structure, to the point that if they have their schedule for the day and their materials and they're dropped off at childcare or with grandma, that we're not expecting grandma to teach. We're expecting the child, through grandma's help, to log in and let the teacher take it from there. Again, that might be naive. This is going to be tough, but do not hesitate to reach out early to the teacher or principal if you need more help. Class sizes. So for phase 1, we will have normal class sizes of 25 to 30 like any other year. When we transition to phase 2, for physical distancing purposes, we'll go ahead and the cohorts will be anywhere from 12 to 15, in some cases less students per class. So for this first phase, it's a normal size classroom. How much homework should we expect from class in addition to the 5 or 6 hours a day online? Honestly, not much. We are worried about screen time just as well. Teachers will take regular breaks, as I mentioned, throughout the day for kids to go outside, perhaps go outside and observe, come back and talk about it, move around, get a snack. Also, even though the schedule might see 45 minutes of synchronous learning, that could be, like I mentioned, it could be 10 minutes of instruction, and then it could be 15 minutes of a kid working on a project away from the computer. They will not be tethered to a computer for the entire time. We have that concern as well. In addition, homework will be minimal, if anything at all. The focus will be on classwork and the time working with the teacher. We have awesome teachers, everybody, and I think you'll know that. And they're up for this challenge. They've been working on it all summer long, honing their skills, their digital learning skills, going to different professional development. So we're going to trust that their kids are in good hands. Some students did not have a positive experience in last year's cohort. A couple people shared this, so I kind of paraphrase, but basically they're asking what the rationale was for grades 1 through 5, keeping them in the same group. A lot of thought and discussion went into this. The pros and cons were weighed, but basically it was to maintain for those kids some sense of familiarity as they go from group to a teacher that they've never seen or don't know. At least they'll have a group of kids that they're comfortable with for the most part. We realize not all groups are perfect, and there might be some issues within that group. Bring it to the teacher's attention. They, in the small digital breakouts, perhaps they can keep the kids, if there's a conflict, away from each other. And as we move to phase 2, that information will be used in building the cohorts. So to answer the question, there in the pro-con discussion, the pros outweighed the cons in this sense. This person was honest. I'm not a fan of the new schedule. Why can't we have just a block of interactive learning? A very common question. The answer basically is the new state guidelines. It's different than the spring. We have strict requirements with instructional minutes, attendance, accountability. And with that in mind, we tried to create a structured schedule. For the most part, I think it's 4 to 5 hours. Most are going from 8:30 to 1:30 or 2. There will be a lot of times when kids are not working online, like I mentioned. So again, screen burnout will be monitored, and teachers will adjust as they see. These are just, I wanted to respect the questions that were sent, and they're all, again, the theme is working parents. What are we supposed to do? Parents are essential workers and don't have childcare, or grandma's helping and she doesn't speak English. All valid and very shared concerns that again, probably more than 5 or 10 similar questions. And again, the same answer that I'm sure it's not a satisfactory answer at this point. We'll work with you, and we're going to try to make the kids as independent as possible with as much structure as possible. So we drop them off at the Y with a schedule, with their materials. You could trust for the most part, the kids will have the routines down to log in, and then the teacher takes it from there. Also, we are hoping after some point that our kids will start working together and supporting each other a bit. We still have 3 Chromebooks from the spring. What's the process for exchanging? Everything tech or digital or connectivity wise, Travis is going to be your contact. Will students be expected to be online or present during the day? Yes. Attendance again is mandatory. Attendance will be taken first thing for all classes, so it's really important that the kids get up and are ready to log in first thing in the morning. Schedules have been created to make those routines hopefully as easy as possible. Additional online tools and videos will be posted, as I mentioned before, for any kind of, if kid misses class or didn't get it the first round of instruction, there'll be ways for them to revisit the learning. Question about absences, how they'll be handled. Very traditional. If a child is not there for their morning check-in, the teacher will mark them absent. The site secretaries will then go ahead and start calling until we get a clear of why the kid's absent. Parents, please call in advance. So if you know your child, for example, is just too sick to even do the distance learning, or they have an appointment, please call so we don't have to call you. Regarding makeup work, same process is in place. Students that are absent have the right to make up missed work. They should work with the teacher directly. Sometimes, they could provide the exact work. Other times might be an alternate assignment, or sometimes the assignment's forgiven and they will learn about it in a different way. But again, if a child's absent, we have the same reporting requirements as we did prior to the spring. How will testing work? Will there be homework outside of the distance learning schedule? Teachers will assess student work in many ways, including online quizzes and tests. State standard testing last year was postponed. We don't know what's going to happen this year. For new parents, students in grades 3 through 8 are required to take the year-end test, which due to COVID is really not a priority, I think, right now. So we don't know. We haven't heard from the state or federal government whether it's required, but we will find out and share it with you. Regarding homework, as mentioned, it's be minimal at most. The focus is on in-class time with the teacher. This parent said they're excited about the small group learning. Can you talk a little bit about how that will work? And then a second question was, I'm confused about the skills elective for the 6th grader. First answer is that the elementary school teachers will meet and put kids in small groups throughout the day to assess their understanding, to reteach depending on ability levels. Google Meets, as I mentioned, has the ability to have virtual breakouts that are supervised by the teacher. So that really encourages the interaction. The skills elective, I think Ms. Padagran kind of mentioned it when she discussed BV, but basically for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, the first part of the year in the skills, it's really developing those online routines and practices so they can be independent. And when we transition to the second trimester, depending where we are as far as the phases, we're hoping that we will have more of traditional offerings like art, student government, and things like that. Breaks be at the same time for all grades to accommodate multiple siblings in different grades. For example, if I'm a parent of a 1st grader, a 3rd grader, and a 5th grader, they have lunch at the same time. That was intentional, but unfortunately, recesses are really based on developmental need. The little guys need more often, smaller ones more often. So that was the rationale behind putting together those schedules. But we did try to make a district-wide lunch period. So as mentioned by Ms. Sherpinski, families could take that half an hour break if they're together, or if not, at least the kids can kind of slow down at the same time and then reboot when lunch is over. Do you recommend kids with houses with multiple kids to use headphones? Absolutely. The headphones are very, very helpful in the virtual world. Kind of, it blocks out all of the distraction. And this question is about basically there's child's ability to work online independently. And getting back to my old response, we're hoping those routines will get kids to that level of independence. This has to do with burnout. If my child's having an off day and just it's not going to work, we do not want parents and kids to go to war at home during COVID. You got enough stress. We want kids to make sure they log in and are there in the morning, so we could count them as present and we can account for them and know they're safe. If as a parent, we trust you guys as parents to make that parental call. If it's not worth the conversation or the coercion with the kid to get them back on track, don't fight. Contact the teacher, contact the principal if it becomes a pattern, and let us try to help out, solve the problem with you. Again, if your child continues to struggle, please contact us right away. COVID, as we all know, is increasing the stresses at home, and you do not need to battle through child about their distance learning. Why is the A and B cohort 3 hours and phase 1, I think, why is it so spread out? So phase 2, the cohort, there's 3 hours of in-person instruction, but there's also, which wasn't clear, there's additional asynchronous time when they get home to account for those instructional minutes. So it's the same, the minutes are the same between phase 1 and phase 2. In phase 2, they're just separated a bit more. I hope that answers that question. Again, in phase 2, it's not just 3 hours of instruction and the kids are off. They go home and there's distance learning from there. Can families arrange with the teacher to receive weekly work and work independently? Unfortunately, no. I know a lot of parents that don't have support during the day. They're thinking, well, when they get home, they can help. Unfortunately, not. That's a different type of instructional model called independent studies that we don't offer as a district. We have to conform to the CDE guidelines, which really is how we build those schedules. So unfortunately, no. The answer is no. What social emotional wellness resources are available? So basically, the teachers will be making social emotional health part of their daily, interaction with the kids, whether it's in a formal class meeting or integrated into health at the middle school. In addition, for cases that require a little bit more intervention, we are continuing our partnership with Harmony at Home, which is Sticks and Stones. And they provide virtual counseling. And if you feel your child can benefit from that, let the site principal know and they will put you in contact with the counselor. Can you clarify the expectations on Monday? I think that was shared, but basically Mondays, the most important part for accountability is that check-in in the morning, whether it's half an hour at BV or an hour and a half at Spreckels. After that, the kids will work on independent work asynchronously throughout the day. So that's really what your Mondays look like. But the morning is crucial that they log in and are accounted for. How will special ed be handled with distance learning? For now, all learning and support is virtual, including special ed. Classes have been established to allow for our instructional aides to give support in the general ed, as well as give you the specialized academic instruction as per your IEP. So we will provide the same minutes and supports virtually. In some cases, if your IEP needs to be adjusted, our coordinator of special ed will be in touch with you. But the spirit of the IEP remains the same. It's to support students with disabilities in their educational setting. And if at some point we could bring, pods of kids back to the sites, we'll be bringing back kids that need X amount of specialized support, and it's better to get it in person. Can you set up online tutorials on how to log in and use the different platforms? I think we mentioned that. Our IT department's putting together kind of a whole menu of support, whether they're going to be webinars that you could watch, online videos, or if you just need some one-on-one time in person, we can arrange that. But we really do want to support you in all the different learning tools that will be used, and training's coming. We're also going to provide, which I think is equally important, a consultant to come and talk to parents who are interested in social emotional support, meaning how to lessen those conflicts at home. We will let you know when that's going to happen, but the person will talk about, healthy boundaries for distance learning, the best ways to prepare your kid for distance learning and make them successful. That's coming soon too. Will students with 2 homes have 2 sets of materials? Unfortunately, we only have Chromebooks for one per student, and we're fortunate as a district that we have that. However, a student can always access their school account from any tech device that runs Google Chrome, which is this icon. So if you are if your child's in a split home situation and you are worrying about materials, if the other home has a computer, you don't know how to access it, call our tech people and they'll walk you through how they could access their school account. Is there any alternative for 7th graders to have Spanish? Mrs. Pagram mentioned this, but unfortunately it wouldn't work in this year's schedule, but we are trying to look at having a full year course next year. We're working with the high school to make sure that if it's rigorous enough, it counts for credit. And we are committed to making sure our 8th graders can finish off their 2-year commitment and get the full year this year. So unfortunately, 7th graders are on hold this year, but we do, we're looking into making sure they get the same level of instruction in a 1-year course next year. I have a new kindergartner and have not received much communication. I apologize. So if you are new to the district, first of all, welcome. We are thrilled to have you as part of the Spreckels family. Wish it was under different circumstances we can meet in person, but for the time being, welcome to our community. Anybody who's registered in the last few weeks or months, we're in the process of adding you to our computer system, our communication system. So far, our registrar has been kind of forwarding my emails. Really soon, we're going to have that up to date, so you should be receiving all correspondences from me, the principals, the teachers, perhaps more than you want, very soon. And again, welcome to the community. And that concludes the questions in our time together. Again, thank you for coming out tonight. We are excited to work with your kids. Like you, we thought by now we'd be back to normal, but we are committed to serving you the best we can and making sure the kids have a wonderful experience and a very enriched education. We will be in contact throughout the rest of the summer, and we look forward to seeing you, whether it's in the car or picking up materials real soon. If you have questions that popped up tonight and they weren't answered, or your question wasn't answered satisfactorily, please email me directly and I'll either come up with an answer or find a person that has an answer for you. And this presentation will be posted to our website by Monday. Have a great night. Thank you.